is going to cover creating a basic web page. The agenda is the technologies we'll be using, who does what, a look at the code, a demo, and then playing with the code. Technologies. First technology we're going to be using is HTML and CSS. HTML is hypertext markup language. It's a series of tags that creates the structure of a web page. It can be written directly in a file and open in a browser to view. CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's used to change the color, font size, background, etc. of a web page. It can either be put in styling in a separate CSS file, in a style tag on the same page, or inline directly into the tags. We're also going to be using vanilla JavaScript. JavaScript is an object-oriented client-side scripting language. This means it has the ability to keep track of objects, is run in a browser, and doesn't need to be compiled before it's run. The browser gets the code and decides what to do with it as it is run. Who does what? So before we start, we're going to do some vocab. MVP stands for Minimum Viable Product. It's the version of the product that has the smallest number of features but can still be considered done. Usually the first iteration of a new product that will be iterated on later. AC stands for Acceptance Criteria. This is what is needed for the MVP or the final product to be considered finished. SWE is shorthand for Software Engineer. QA is shorthand for Quality Assurance. And ticket is a way to keep track of what's being worked on. So the product manager, or PM. So a PM puts together the requirements for the web page, determines what the MVP is for the product, puts together the AC for the big picture and sometimes for the smaller tickets that the SWE will work on, facilitates meetings with stakeholders to gather requirements and identify problems. So an example would be integrating with another product, legal issues, cross-team collaborations, etc. A PM also creates reports and analysis to evaluate past product features and inform future decisions. So the user experience / user interface person is their job is to work on how the users will interact with the web page and exactly how it will look. They make decisions like style and color choice for the page. They work with SWEs when they need to know how to make changes about how the page looks. So they talk about what can be done, what's feasible, and then they get together and sometimes come to a conclusion. And they put together mock-ups, basically screenshots of how the web page should look when the SWEs model their work off of. Marketing. So marketing puts together the exact copy for the web page, so the words that are going to be used on it. They have knowledge about what will work and what won't. They work with UX UI to create the overall look for the page, and they work with SWEs when they need more info / context about what they're putting together for them. Software engineer, or SWE, they get the exact requirements from a mix of the PM's requirements, the marketing's copy, and the UX UI's mockups. They write the code that creates the website. They're in charge of making sure that the AC is met. They proofread each other's code in a process called code review, and they're often in charge of getting the code into QA and then production. So all the way from creating the code from scratch to putting it to the people who are going to see the final product. Quality assurance, or QA. They test the code that was written by the SWEs to make sure it matches all the requirements of the associated ticket in a special environment before production known as QA. Here, they proofread the copy and test the functionality, and if something is wrong with the code, they send it back to the SWE to make a fix. So we're going to look at some code. This right here is the HTML and CSS for a simple web page. It has the HTML tag, and then this head tag. And then it has the body, which is the main portion of the web page. This H1 is a header. This P is a paragraph. This button is a button. Then when we click it, it will show this alert that says button clicked. So this is the web page that we're looking at. It has the header, the paragraph, and this button that says click to see alert. We're going to click on it and see we get this alert that says button clicked. So that was our demo. And now we're going to make some changes to the code. So let me split the screen here. So we're going to make some changes to this code. First thing we're going to do is change the name on the browser tab. So here we're going to change what's called the title. And we're going to make it example with a capital E. So save that, and when I exit and I refresh this page, we can see that the tab became example now. The next thing we want to do is make the header smaller. So headers go from the smaller this number here, the bigger the header. So H1 is the biggest, H2 is the next smallest, then H3. So I'm going to go ahead and make this H3. The next thing we want to do is center the text on the screen. So I'm going to come here and say style equals, then text align center. And you can see it changed color with the syntax highlighting, letting me know that I typed in the right words. Now I want to change the button color. So I'm going to come here and say style equals background color cyan. And that'll make the background color of the button cyan. And then I want to change the words in the alert when the button is pressed. So here I have this alert, and I'm going to change it to updated words. Okay, so that's where all those changes were going to be made. So now if I go back, if I save that and go back to here and hit refresh, I can see the header got smaller, my paragraph is now centered, my button is cyan, and when I click on it, I get the updated words in the alert. And that's it. I hope that was helpful, and now you have a better understanding of how web pages get made.